Hi, Blake with BlvdHome. I'm back. No, it's been a while, so glad to be back. Probably watching on YouTube, be like, I don't know the difference, but trust me. Today I'm going to share some of my favorite horror stories that I've seen over the years that's actually happened. It's not like, oh yeah, buddy said that this did this, and yeah, this big tall tale. No, I either have technicians that have sent me these pictures that are friends of mine, or things I've actually seen myself and taken photographs of it. You know, I'm sure that customers don't really like it sometimes I've taken these photographs, but you know, it's great documentation and it's great fodder for stories. I wish when I was younger I would have known better to like take and write down a journal every day of all the stuff, because I've seen some crazy stuff over the years. So we're gonna go over a few of my favorite ones and a few from my technicians. Kind of a forewarning, and this is kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I am being serious a little bit when I'm saying this. We got some pictures coming up. They're kind of graphic. I will tell you. Just be warned that there are a few graphic photographs, so if you're a little bit, you know, on the, I'm not sure if I really should watch this part of it, especially one in particular is kind of really horrific. Here, I'm gonna show you a picture of a microwave. Now, I did not do this microwave. This was sent to me by one of our technicians here at BlvdHome, and he went out to this home to take a look at this microwave. Now, please don't say you don't see anything wrong with this. If you do, you can just stop watching this video right now. But this microwave was not even mounted to the wall. It was just hanging from the bolts that you use to secure it up to the cabinetry. So if you know anything about mounting a microwave, you have a back plate that goes against the wall, the microwave hangs in the back plate, and you put screws in through the countertop to basically pull it up tight to it and basically hold the front of it, but most of the weight is held by the plate in the back. The plate wasn't even attached to the back, and then the call was, well, the microwave's kind of loose and it's kind of wobbles when we open and close the door. You think? You know, honestly, because it's bad. So this is something don't ever do. If your microwave is ever loose or hanging like this, please stop what you're doing. Get somebody out there to get this taken care of. You definitely don't want this falling on your range or falling on you or anything like that. So, okay, here we're going to show you a picture of a refrigerator. Look at all the frost in there. Now this frost is all created because somebody left the door open and say, well, it doesn't hurt to leave the door open a little bit. I don't know, you look at the picture and you tell me if this is normal for a refrigerator. If you open up your refrigerator door, your freezer door, and it looks like a winter wonderland, you know, with frosty in there and all the snow all around, that's generally not a good thing. In this case, this was caused from basically the refrigerator was being overstuffed with food, and because it was being overstuffed with food, it was forcing the door open. They thought the door was closed, and this is the end result. And you're gonna say, well, that's not much of a horror story. Well, it is. When you think of the cost of groceries nowadays, it is a horror story, because basically we're ruining all this food in there. We're adding all this freezer burn to it. We're causing a lot of other issues with it. Again, make sure that when you're putting stuff in your refrigerator or any of your doors, make sure the doors are closing properly. Don't be stuffing stuff in. That's really popular to almost on a bottom freezer to basically just kind of put stuff in there and not really pay attention and kind of close it. Open up your French door, top of it, look down on your seal every now and then just to make sure it is closing, and then you'll definitely avoid this horror story of having this be to your refrigerator, because once this happens, basically you have to pull it out, defrost the whole thing so everything works properly, and it's such a pain. And so, but this is a picture of a condenser on a refrigerator. This is an LG refrigerator. Not picking on you, LG, but it happened to your fridge. Now this condenser is extremely dirty. They've had this refrigerator for a little over 5 years, and this is what all the dust that's accumulated on it. Well, a lot of the new refrigerators, they're dependent on air. Now, a lot of the older refrigerators, when you had kick plates on them, that's where it drew the air. It drew the air from the front of the refrigerator and around the back. Well, the newer ones, because we want to make them bigger to fit in the same hole, basically, they've made the refrigerator taller and got rid of a lot of the air that comes from underneath. So the refrigerators is totally dependent on the air that flows behind the refrigerator for its airflow to keep everything cool. In this case, another horror story. They didn't do the maintenance on it. They didn't take care of the condenser. They didn't vacuum it. Well, this is the end result, and the end result is, ta-da, another bad LG compressor, because it failed due to heat, because there's no airflow on it. So again, it's a horror story because it's 5 years, it's out of warranty. Here you go. Here's a $900 repair. I'm sure that will make your day bright and happy and smiley. You're gonna be like, it's $900? Well, I guess it is. So your choice is either pay this or go buy a new refrigerator. Most people are going to go buy a new refrigerator, and I know everybody's going to say, well, LGs have a 10-year compressor warranty. You're right, for the part. So you may get the part for free, but you still have to pay for the labor, and then you have to hope that it's going to work after you're done. Just saying. So anyhow, Another horror story, something you don't want to do, is the inside of a washing machine. Now you're gonna say, this doesn't look like a washing machine. That's because this washing machine is torn apart. Now, what you're looking at here on this picture is you're looking at the drum, and it looks all white down in there, and you're looking at the hub, and this belongs to a Speed Queen washing machine. The Speed Queen washing machine was put into a nail salon, then they washed all their rags and all the other stuff in there. Well, because they're washing all these rags and stuff that they constantly want to bleach them, they're literally dumping bleach into it, literally all the time. Well, this is what happens, and they wonder why they've only had it for a year and a half and it's leaking everywhere. That's because they're putting so much bleach in there. Bleach is corrosive. I don't care what they say, it's going to eat away at stuff. It's going to eat away at seals, it's going to eat away at bearings, and this is the end result. And I get my favorite thing I always love, everybody says, well, it's under warranty, right? Sure. Run your car into a wall, take it back to the dealer and say, it's under warranty, right? Yeah. Anyhow, and then my favorite photograph of all time, I went out to a salon, hair salon, that they had a washing machine. And their complaint was the machine was going out of balance. I'm like, okay. So I check it and looking at it and check the balance of it, and everything's fine, grains look fine and stuff. And the lady's like,
this goes out of balance every time, and it doesn't wash very well.
And just at this time, I happened to look up at the sign above this washing machine in said hair salon, and this was a sign. Now tell me, I know, if some of you say, I don't understand, just stop watching the video now. I shook my head and I said, well, what does your sign say here?
Well, yeah, I have to save money somehow.
Okay, well, that's your problem. So anyhow, now we're getting to the good ones here. Now, at this point, this is where we need to have a little discretion here. Now, this personally is my call, and I'll tell you the story of this call. So they went up, this happened to be an Electrolux dryer, and this was quite a few years ago, well, probably 4 or 5 years ago. Customer's complaint was this dryer was making a rattling noise. It was making this awful noise when it was running. So I turned it on, pressed the start button. The unit started running, it started making this bad noise. And so I immediately reached over and popped it and turned it off. The guest's like, well, you're not running it long. You have to really hear it. Here, let's turn it back. And he reached over and he turns it back on. And you start hearing it make this noise, and all of a sudden you hear this as the drum stopped turning, and I'm like, here's clunk, 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 clunk. And I reach over and I pop it off, and he's like, what's that? And I says, I don't know, let's find out. So we took it apart, took the front cover off, got to the bulkhead, ready to take the bulkhead off, and viewer discretion advised at this point. This is what I found. Yeah, it is exactly what you think it is. It's pretty bad. May I encourage you to look at the eyes of this, because people think that this is AI, that this picture was altered. I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, this was not altered. This is exactly what it looked like. A mouse had come in from the outside of the house because he was trying to get in out of the heat because it was a hot summer. He had chewed through the louvers, went through the ductwork, and climbed into the dryer. Now, the reason it was making a noise, it was trying to get through the blower housing, and so it started chewing on the blower. Well, poor little guy happened to be in there when the guy started it again and kind of got caught between the blower and the blower housing. And yeah, this was probably one of the worst calls I had to take care of, because he wanted it fixed, and unfortunately we fixed it. But it was kind of gross. I mean, I made sure I had double and triple gloves and bags and everything else. And I had one of my technicians that currently is with BlvdHome. He was in training, and so I made sure that he did a lot of this job. But this is the end result. You need to say, well, geez, Blake, this is a once in a lifetime. This will never ever happen again. Well, you'd be wrong, because that same technician that I was training at the time, he found this not too long ago in a dryer. Wasn't turning, wasn't running. And what do we have here? We have an iguana. And it's not a pet iguana either, it's a wild iguana. The first one, he crawled in from the side of the house. This one, the dryer ductwork goes through the roof. So the only thing that we can assume, and and what I've been told, is that it was climbing up on the roof and went down through the vent and dropped all the way down the bottom, was trying to find a way out. But we had this big fat iguana in this dryer, and it did the same damage. So it's wild. It's just crazy what can happen. And you say, it can't happen, but it does. So anyhow, so I'm not sure if we gave them a bill for pest extermination. I don't think so, but it's possible. Who knows? All right, so back to the next story. So we're gonna stay in the animal vein since we were there in the animal vein here. This is what rodents can do to your appliances. And side note here, I know it's a side note, so just bear with me. I understand it's traumatic for the customer that has to be told or shown what damage is done to it, but don't expect us to be happy fixing it. That's all I can say, because we look at the stuff, we're like, oh, I don't want to put a hazmat suit on to come do my appliance repair job. I didn't sign up for this, So the next story is refrigerator not cooling. All righty, let's find out why this refrigerator's not cooling. Show the next picture here. Yes, we have another dead mouse in a condenser fan. And yeah, it wouldn't cool very well because it's not going to move much air and the compressor burns out. Yeah. We also have this next picture, which is in the same light. This is a picture of a Bosch dishwasher. This is what a mouse does to it. And you see that yellow at the bottom? That's not water. You see the urine and the excrement, and you see all the other stuff all around in there. It's acidic. It eats away at connections. It eats away at wires. It just ruins stuff. So as much as you want us to fix it, sometimes we either can't or we have to tell you, and this is the hardest thing to tell anybody, is yeah, we can fix it, but we can't guarantee it's going to work because we don't know what other damage has possibly been done from this mouse doing what it did, doing its business, wherever it may be. And going along with this, we have a water line here. Now this is a braided metal line that's been coated, for a water line for a refrigerator. And mice, when they get hungry or they get thirsty, not hungry, but when they get thirsty, this is how desperate they get. They will chew through the metal braiding to get to the water line. So again, they're very destructive animals. And then we're to my favorite and your favorite. We always love these, the things that are going to survive when the nuclear bomb hits. Cockroaches. Cockroaches, I have no idea. Maybe I did get somebody on here to find out why, but they love electronics. Anywhere the electronics are, cockroaches run there and they thrive and they procreate there and they become more and more and more. When they do this stuff, you look at these boards and basically they do their business and they short stuff out. If you think about it, the modern circuit boards have tiny components on it. Well, you get enough water and other things on there, not necessarily, it's not water, but other things on there, they don't last and they break down and they fail and control boards short out. So again, cockroaches, and the thing is, generally, if we have this much of an infestation of cockroaches, that it's not going away. They've got to either have the house fumigated or something, because put a new electronic board in it, within a year, it's going to be right back to the same point again. And these are difficult conversations we have to have. They're horror stories, but they're also difficult conversations because, I love all of my customers and I'm being straight up honest. I love them and I'm there to help them, but sometimes you have to have hard conversation with them and it's not easy because you don't want to offend them. They're good people. It's just happen to be the situation that they're in or the environment that they're in, and you just can't get away from it. So it's not saying anything about the customers, it's just life, and bugs are going to take over the world anyway. So thank you for watching this video. This has been fun, kind of reliving some of these stories and be able to share some of these stories and some of these pictures with you. But things do happen. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any horror stories, just post them below. We'd be happy to see them and comment. Please like and subscribe. We'd like to see you again somewhere down the road, and you have a great day. 30 towels. 30 towels. I don't care if they're medium size, large size. 30 towels.